So today we're looking at a Porsche 911, but it's not just any Porsche, it's a 996, and this one here is a Carrera 4. Back in the late 90s when this thing really came out, people didn't really like it. It had loads of changes and it wasn't very similar to 993 in lots of different ways. And I'll come back to those changes in just a second, but I want to make a statement to start with, and I think a lot of people probably won't agree, and that's fair enough, but I generally think that the 996 is one of the most significant generations of Porsche that's ever come out. And I will tell you why. It's important to remember that this was the start of the future for Porsche with the new water-cooled unit. And despite the fact people weren't happy with this, in the late 90s there were two big factors that Porsche had to consider. Firstly, that air-cooled unit had hit a bit of a wall and engineers were really struggling to pull out any further innovations, and also struggling to progress with emissions and fuel efficiency. But the bigger problem that Porsche had at the time was the fact that they were in trouble financially, and it turns out global sales were dropping and money was being lost on all the cars they were selling. So at the time, Porsche had to make a change, and this change came in the way of working with Toyota. Now Toyota are fairly known for using their lean manufacturing techniques, and this was introduced to Porsche, as well as developing product lines and the ideas of sharing parts to reduce costs but increase sales. And this explains too why there's so many shared parts between the 996 911 and the 986 Boxster. So, plenty of changes and plenty of new ideas, but how did they all turn out and how did that affect the 996? Lucky for me, I've got the keys to this bad boy for a whole day, so I'm going to find out. I'm Jay Matto and you're watching Ghattos Gears.
Now, it's no secret a lot of people don't like the 996 and never have, probably never will, but I remember this car differently. I remember Memphis Reigns' little brother stealing one of these things at the start of Gone in 60 Seconds, and ever since that scene, I've loved them. I think they're really cool. I think they've aged beautifully, and if you want a ticket into the Porsche 911 Owners Club, this is probably your best bet.
Now you're probably watching this and thinking, yeah, it's the ticket into the club because it's one of the cheapest you can buy. And while there is a little bit of truth to that statement, that's not necessarily the key factor or reason why I say this. And while I'm on the topic of price, I'll put it out there now that yes, you can go out and buy a cheap 996 for maybe 10 grand or so. But it's most likely going to have high miles and little to no maintenance, which can be a risky purchase. This car I'm driving here has pretty low miles on it, loads of history, and all the preventative maintenance has been done by a Porsche specialist, and that's what you want when you buy a 996. And cars like this are probably going to be more upwards of 20 grand.
So why spend £20,000 on a Golf GTI, Golf R? You could probably get an S3, 140i, there's loads of options you could get for 20 grand. But without sounding rude, if you own one of those cars, they're regular traffic, they're nothing special, they are probably amazing to drive, and yeah, that's a big factor in buying a performance car. It's about what it drives, what it makes you feel like when you drive it, 100%. But you want it to feel special, you want it to feel like an event.
And the 996 really does tick these boxes. Its iconic shape and body lines make it recognisable to most people regardless if they're into cars or not. And what's more, the 996 in particular started to push into that modern classic status, and I think with this, it's pretty much mastered the ability to stand out and draw eyes but remain humble. It doesn't shout "look at me," but to those who know, the thumbs up isn't rare to see when you're driving it around, and people really like seeing it.
Listen, no disrespect to anyone who drives a Golf GTI, a Golf R, they're all sick, they're all cool, I'd love to own a Golf GTI, I really would. However, there's no joie de vivre, there's nothing that's too exciting. It's just a Golf, I suppose. I know it's not just a Golf, it's probably rude of me to say that, but I'm trying to make a point here. I'm trying to tell you, I'm trying to describe to you the feeling of driving around in a Porsche 911. It's special, it makes you feel special, it just livens up your day a little bit more.
Now obviously, the engine itself is what helps liven up your day. And in the back of this 996, you'll find a water-cooled, naturally aspirated 3.4 litre M96 engine. It develops just under 300 brake horsepower with 350 Newton meters of torque, and while there's not that much to look at, there is plenty to listen to. So these cars now have built a reputation across all their generations of being the best sports cars you can buy. But how does this 996 feel in 2025?
Is a over 20-year-old car. So, what's it drive like? How does it feel? Foot down. Just goes, no problems at all. That 300 brake is more than enough. In the real world of just tooting around, if you need to overtake someone, you can. If you need to get somewhere quickly, you can. One of the reasons why you buy a Porsche 911 is because you want to take it on a back road and have some fun with it. So, just got myself onto a little back road here, one I know fairly well. What's nice about this car is that the hydraulic steering it has, yeah, at low speeds can be a bit strange that you can move the steering wheel quite a lot and still go in a straight line. But when you're on a back road like now, when you're giving it some and gunning it, it feels quite sharp. It doesn't feel too darty, which is good. You don't want to be just flying around, but this steering weights up a little bit. It feels, the best way I can describe it without being super niche is that you feel so connected to the road. When you move just a touch, the car responds. It's like, again, a bit niche, a bit cringe. You feel part of it. You feel like you're doing this back road together. It feels like you're driving it.
And the reason why I make a statement so obvious is because not all, but so many new cars these days do go like the clappers, and they are pretty entertaining at the start. Very quickly you start to feel like a passenger. I've spoken to some Golf R drivers who've used adjectives such as boring to describe it. And listen, I'm not saying this is a catering, but what I am saying is that it is good fun to drive quickly. And for a sports car, it's not that uncomfortable, to be fair.
Suspension itself is a little bit on the stiff side, but you want that. You want it to be a bit sharper. It's a Porsche 911, it was never going to be a boat, so there's no body roll or anything like that, which is great. And on a back road, it does absorb most of the bumps quite well. You're not ever feeling yourself flying around all over the place. It does quite a good job of absorbing everything.
So this car has a big reputation to fill. If you've never driven one of these before, you expect a lot, and I think it delivers. But one thing I think you've got to be aware of when you're looking at buying one of these is the gearbox, because I'd say when you're trying to drive this thing quickly, the Tiptronic can be a bit of a limitation.
This gearbox, it's a love-hate relationship with me and this gearbox. This gearbox is a Tiptronic, and this gearbox is enough to put a lot of people off. A lot of people look at a 911, especially a 996, and think, you know what, I'm not wanting a Tiptronic. However, it's got its pros and cons. I'll start with the cons, and the biggest con is that it is an old gearbox. It is nowhere near as smooth and quick and responsive as new DSG gearbox you find in all the Volkswagen products. But it's not bad, it's okay. The only problem you have when you're driving this car pretty spiritedly and giving it a proper blast is that the gearbox doesn't always keep up with what you want it to do. Sometimes you feel a little bit out of control. Sometimes you think, I'm not quite in the gear I want to be. I'm approaching a corner, I want to drop it down, I want to get around this corner how I want to get around this corner, but sometimes the gearbox is doing its own thing. It's quite slow to respond, which can be a con, but it's an old gearbox. I've driven a lot of old BMWs with their old gearboxes, and it's quite similar. It's just a case of you can't have the gear you want when you want it when you're driving this thing quickly. And that's the only negative thing about this box, because the pros of that, in everyday life, especially driving around on a normal basis, driving to work, driving to the gym, wherever it might be, it works really well. It's smooth, pulling away is easy. Coming to a roundabout, if you need to just jet off, you need to dip, you need to go, put your foot down and you're gone. Simple as.
Now it's at this point I want to say that this 996, being a Carrera 4 Tiptronic, is not the one I'd buy personally. But that's okay, because that's the beauty. They made different versions to suit different drivers. For example, the owner of this car isn't one to really thrash, redline or drive that quickly, to be honest, but does like having the all-wheel drive system and the ease of an automatic gearbox, making this the perfect option. For me, I do enjoy driving, I do like seeing the higher RPMs, and I do like safely going near the limit. So, for me, a Carrera 2 manual is what I personally go for, but Bear in mind, I say that after driving this thing for a few hours. If it was my daily driver, I think I'd be more than happy with this, especially this time of the year. A lot of people do hate on the Tiptronic, and to be frank, I used to, but then I actually sat down and drove one, and I realised how well it works with the car. On a track, I think you'd probably struggle in this, to be honest, but this car's never been on a track, and in all honesty, I don't see that happening anytime soon. And while being off the track, it's a really easy car to live with.
Visibility is really good. Obviously, it's a bit, your A-pillar is not too bad at all. There is no massive gap at the back because you've got all the windows, there's no tints or anything like this, so visibility is absolutely fine, if I'm being honest with you. I've not personally struggled to find myself out of many corners.
And when it comes to the interior, I'm sure people won't agree, but this is one of my favourite interiors that Porsche have made because it's so simple and it feels like a sports car with little to no distractions. I love the 3-spoke steering wheel. I love the fact these dials just light up in your face. I think the 997 with its silver trims has aged a little bit, whereas this 996 really feels like a modern classic.
I think for what these cars go for at the moment, it's a steal. And I think if you're in the market for one, and you're not quite sure, maybe you don't love the way the 996 loves at the front, maybe you fancy a 997, maybe you want something newer. I'm not trying to play the bad person on your shoulder, wherever the hell it is, but you should buy one, 100%, or at least give one a drive. I just don't think you'll be disappointed. I don't think you'll be upset. I think you will enjoy it. I think it will live up to expectation. I don't think it's going to lose much value, especially in this day and age. I think this isn't me saying I think prices are going to fly up. They might do in the future. I don't think they're going to fly up just yet. The world is a very unknown place at the moment, so buying a petrol car and hoping it will go up in value, I couldn't tell you that's going to happen yet, but I don't think it's going to lose much value. I think it's in a nice sweet spot right now where I can't see these things getting any cheaper. So if you're in the market for one, yeah, you should go buy one. Definitely go test drive one. And even getting around as a daily driver, there's speed bumps everywhere, there's potholes everywhere. This thing eats it up, no problem. Obviously, you try your best to avoid them. You try your best to make sure you're not just ragging it over speed bumps and stuff like that. But I don't have to angle over them. I don't have to go, you know, I'm not worried about scraping the nose. Obviously, you take care of things, but it's a sports car that you could definitely use every day.
If you look into daily driver modern classic, this is probably the best you're going to get. It still has that raw analog feel that so many new cars just don't have.
A lot of modern cars today, they are super quick and they'll get you somewhere really quickly, but you don't feel like you're driving it. Whereas this, on this back road now, it absorbs the bumps really well. This is your normal traditional back road, or your normal traditional British back road, I should say. So it's got a few dips, a few crests. It feels like you're really driving it. It feels like we're doing this together. And when you get out of it, when you get going as well, oh, it's brilliant. It is super fun, super exciting. And I know it's an auto, I know it's a Tiptronic, so you're probably thinking, what are you on about? What are you on about getting involved? It's hard to describe, it really is. But everyone's so focused about numbers and emissions and making things as efficient as possible. But sometimes it's not about being efficient, it's not about doing things the quickest way, it's about satisfaction. It's about what it makes you feel like. And this thing just makes you feel brilliant.
So my closing statement for the 996 is pretty simple, to be honest with you. This car is a true example of innovation and change that's not always easy but necessary. And as long as you get the model that suits you and make sure all the maintenance, including that pesky IMS bearing, is sorted, you'll be left with a very capable machine. It's not going to be super fast, especially for today's standards. And also, it's not going to be filled with tech either, so if that's your thing, this probably isn't for you. But if you want a raw, honest sports car, I think you should consider one. And coming back to my movie reference from earlier, I know the star of Gone in 60 Seconds was always Element, but the screen time this thing got was definitely justified.
Start of the film, he breaks into the Porsche dealership and he takes it, and the way he takes off is absolutely bad boy. When you watch that scene, you think that is a that is a car that you want. And all these years later, driving one, I'm not disappointed. You can see why I wanted to steal it. It's brilliant.
This has been Jay from Ghattos Gears, and if you made it this far, I want to say a big thank you for watching the whole video. I'll review whatever cars I can get my hands on, so there'll be more content on the way. If you've enjoyed this video, please feel free to like, share and subscribe, and leave a comment of what you want to see in the future.